Hello, Angel. Welcome back to Queen Flow. Y'all, we are in February. I gotta pick it up with the episodes. Today's conversation is going to be so fantastic. I am going to be sharing about how I think about dream life creation and going about to create it and inviting you, giving you an invitation to do things differently, giving you an invitation to do things differently. And this is so timely. I just had a conversation with a new private client that just really made me realize what she's desiring to create in her life and the way she wants to feel in her life. And it got me thinking again about what gets us in the way of going out and creating, because we live in this hyper masculine world where you think that to have a change in your life means this big journey of doing 75 days hard. And now you got to get up at 5 a.m. and all of these things that as women, maybe you can sustain, and you might be a 5 a.m.er. Or of course, if you're getting up at 5 a.m. with your kids, it's a bit different. But you know what I mean? This energy of to be a productive citizen and to create what you want in your life, you got to get up at 5, run to the gym, pound your coffee, and just always fucking go, 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 go. And I have just seen that energy and trying to go about dream life creation essentially like a man wear out so many women to the point where we have lost our vitality, we've lost our sex drives, we're gaining weight, we're not happy. We feel like it's Groundhog's Day. You know that energy where it feels like it's Groundhog's Day in your life and you're like, I literally cannot keep going like this, but since you're told consistency is valuable, discipline is valuable, you just kind of keep going like this and then nothing's changing. And one day the universe will just break something massive for you to make a change. We don't need to live like that. And I realize that a lot of us are almost asleep to the ways we're living like that. And we're not actually fulfilled, but we've kind of normalized this energy of suffering, of life is hard, of overstaying in things we don't need to be in, of being afraid to switch gears because of how much we think is going to be required of us. And y'all know I've been about ease from jump. Yeah, of course you're going to put in work to have things that you want. But I've had so many quantum leaps in my life, in terms of my living environment, my money, my business, my relationship to myself, my health, all of these areas. And yeah, I've made some big moves, in terms of moving location or leaving relationships or ending things and different things like that. But I always talk about this. It's all these micro shifts that create big results, right? It's understanding that there's a vast, vast number of realities available and that you get to shift your state of being. You get to shift the timeline that you plan. You get to shift the vibrational reality you choose. And when you shift that vibrational reality, you are going to, with so much more ease, create what it is that you want instead of thinking that, okay, it's going to come from playing on the same vibrational reality and just adding in more reps, adding in more actions, adding in more doing, adding in more hard. And that's supposedly supposed to build your discipline. All of a sudden you're going to have your dream life. I've just never created that way. And I found that the women who come my way don't create that way either, even if it works for other people. Even y'all have to remember how energetically sensitive you are. Things are just going to work differently. Even if it works for men, you got to remember they're on a 24-hour hormonal clock. Is every day is the same for them. We are not wired like this. There's just so many ways in which intuitive and energetically awake women just operate. We operate differently. And also just being people who desire to choose ease in this life, but ease isn't about laziness or you're not going to create anything. It's no, I actually value not just the creation, but the experience that I have creating and the experience I have in my life. Right? It's just so wild what we are conditioned for versus what feels good. Two very different things. So anyhow, really excited to share this conversation that I created on creating your best dream life in 2026. Ideally, I would have given this to you in Jan, but here we are in early Feb. I guess we're closer to mid-Feb now. It's the 9th. Just vibing as we do. I'm also really excited to announce, because I was recently asked about feminine magic and money. And if you've been here for a while, you know that Feminine Magic and Money has been my wildly, wildly popular mastermind on deep embodiment of feminine wealth, pleasure, magic, and magnetism. My clients call it Witch School. I am no longer running Feminine Magic and Money as a mastermind because I have Fempire and I have the Revolution, and that feels really good on the mastermind front. But what I am offering to a limited number of women is the opportunity to experience feminine magic and money as a private container. So that means that you will have access to all of the content, and it'll be guided by me of like what to dive into when. I mean, the library is rich because your girl has been creating for it and ran Feminine Magic and Money for so many years. And then the mentorship and the wealth activation piece and just all the total like realignment of your frequencies, helping you operate and live on a totally different plane, easing up manifestation, easing up co-creation, dissolving, getting you in your actual truth, dissolving what isn't for you anymore so you can just be fucking happy and be creating quickly, like without quickly meaning like you just go into overdrive. Like, oh my gosh, life-changing. So for a limited number of you honeys, I am currently running Feminine Magic and Money, previously the mastermind, now the private offer as a private space. Currently, the sales page is not updated to say that it's a private offer. You will have access to the full content library, which I mean, there's so much in there in terms of like teachings, activations, healings. We obviously have the work that we've done with our prior guest experts, which you will have access to as well. It's full, it's rich, it's juicy. You still got this magic and the spells like higher timeline activations, cord cutting, angelic breath work. There's, many teachings on quantum leaping, on like the boundaries that a lot of y'all need to have in place. Just like on money, on literally, I'm just remembering off the top of my head, but I didn't look at the portal before I hopped on here. There's so much. Anyway, what is covered is on the enrollment page. However, there will not be live guest expert sessions. The container will be fully with me. So you have access to everything that is part of Feminine Magic and Money from when it was a mastermind. And then I'll be guiding you based on what is coming up for you. And then you'll have private mentorship with me. So this is going to be very much focused on like creating through the body, your energetics, like everything that is the inside job that is so much of what doesn't get addressed, but makes the quantum leaps pop, makes what you're putting in motion actually work, right? So a lot of you have been, like maybe very heavy on the actions, on the strategy, or just having these feelings like I just keep going after it, but like something is off and you're just not available to have another year that is just the fucking same and you shouldn't be. So if you are interested in claiming one of the spaces that's available for Feminine Magic and Money as a private experience, please email assistant@jocelynkellyreid.com or send me a DM, jocelyn.kelly.reid. We will link the sales page for Feminine Magic and Money. It's just going to have a link to get in touch with us in order to chat about the private option and to make sure there's still space available. But I've just been really craving and loving for this kind of like deep, energetic work and just coming home to yourself and waking up your fucking heart again, waking up your desire again, waking up your vitality for life again, waking up your magic again, and like just taking you out of like that drag or like the autopilot. I've been really enjoying doing it in a private capacity. So that is what we're doing now. I also want to remind you that the Secret Money membership is always available. So this is the low ticket, high lux experience to turn your money faucet on. You are able to jump in for with a 7-day free trial, cancel anytime within the first 7 days. I highly recommend it. We have our next hot seat coaching call coming up in March. Normally, obviously, to have hot seat coaching with me, you would need to be in a mastermind. So that is like a huge, huge plus. All my riffs, behind the scenes trainings, things I dive into real time. There's well over 100 of them now, which is just so incredible. You have access to my full suite of master classes, master courses, and it's just a way to be like close together in frequency, learn what you desire to learn about business on the strategic and energetic front, and money and limitless wealth creation and playing outside the matrix, like, all the deep shit I love to dive into as well. And just having me really like in the background of your life. And I'm always like anything that is on my mind that I want to share about, things that are coming out of my businesses, clients' businesses, energetic things, world things, life things, manifestation things. I'm always, like popping into the Rifts area of our Telegram chat. You you also have your content library, which is totally separate, and you like log into the portal for that with those real-time things. So you get to have me in your back pocket. And then of course, everything else I've ever dropped, as well as the master classes, master courses, is yours as well. So I highly recommend coming to hang out with us in Secret Money. I am going to get to the episode. And again, if you're interested in feminine magic and money, I am going to drop the sales page in episode notes. Know that it's just going to have, everything you'll receive, but the sessions, only the part that will be live is with me, and then you're going to have full access to the content library. I will be directing you based on what's coming up for you. And then of course, like mentoring you. And it's just such an incredible experience. The way that I've seen women quantum leap, from what we do in this space is just insane. And actually, I originally launched it because I was like, you know what? Like, there's the strategic parts of my business and this is in motion. I've been teaching that, but I haven't really taught everything that has accelerated me, like truly deeply accelerated me from like a body-based place, from an energy-based place, from a connection to the divine place, from an energetic place, like all the things you like can't see, that can't be explained. So much of my journey has come from those things while also being deeply strategic, right? So that was originally why I created that space, is I wanted other women to have that experience, have the ease I was having in places that had been so fucking hard before. And not just in places that have been hard before for me, but the places that they felt like they've been looping, or just quite frankly wanted more. Even if it was like good, you always get to have great, and then you get to have extraordinary. So I also highly recommend, at the bottom of that sales page, there's tons of episodes with the women who've had this experience. And again, the only shift this time is there's more mentorship with me. So it's very much focused on us mentoring together. And then of course, you'll have access to everything inside the masterminds to be perfect for you if you feel like you're kind of just, a little at a lull, or like you kind of are like, you notice yourself just kind of like humming with this like masculine buzzy energy, all of you under you all the time, and it's like making you tired. You're capable of creating a lot, but you want to have a lot more ease. You experience like feast or famine with your money. Like it just feels kind of like that next level, that of like how you feel, like how you create in your business, with money, in your career. This is great for you guys who also love my work, but don't necessarily have businesses, or you don't have service-based businesses. I've always had a wide variety of women in this space. You guys know what I'm talking about. You just got that feeling and you're like, oh, I just want things to be easier, and I desire that next level. And like, it's not like you're not willing to work, but you're like, I'm not willing to die for things. And like, you don't need to. Remember, if you believe the ease is available, there is always an easier way. So I highly recommend coming my way for Feminine Magic and Money as a private experience. Again, email assistant@jocelynkellyreid.com, or shoot me a message on Instagram. We can chat about it. And then if you just want to know the details of the container, what's inside, all that juice, then check out the enrollment page. Of course, come join us inside Secret Money. And I'm going to let you enjoy the episode. Love ya. Hello. Happy 2026. I've been in my little end of year cave. I just really like to spend the time with my family, be off the internet, all the things, but a lot's been on my mind. And obviously we are in a new year now. Happy New Year. So happy to be here. And I was really, and have been, reflecting on the times in my life where I very intentionally created a result that I desired to create that was actually initiated at the start of the year. Because so often you guys know this already, right? People they start the new year like, I'm going to have my first $1 million year. I'm going to have my first 500K cash year. I'm going to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And we set these big desires forward, and we say what we want, and we say what we're going to create, and we make it big. And like, that's great. But I have also noticed, and hello to those of you who are here live, that a lot of the time when we do that, it immediately it puts us in a pressure cooker. And so this is why, right, you see people like, they go to the gym for the first week of the year. They start showing up in their business every single day, and it lasts for like 2 weeks, like all of these different things. Because I've noticed in mentoring people for many years now that when we put something forward and we do it kind of in this do or die way, it creates this pressure cooker energy that just doesn't feel good. And I don't believe in our current collective era is actually sustainable. And so but I actually want you to create what you want to create this year. And so I actually want to go back in time a little bit. to when I think back to the time that I created the most drastic shift in my life. And I don't mean like, yes, I've had like the $1 million years, 900K cash year, 400K cash year, doubled my income, all those things. Like, I don't just mean money, because money kind of like comes after a number of other things. But I mean, when the context of my life changed the most dramatically was actually in the start of 2019. And I remember I had gone to a New Year's party at like my brother's friend, his grandparents had this like really cool like penthouse. It looks like it's decorated like from the 60s. Still looks like that, over Central Park. It was so fun. I remember we went to that party, me and like one of my best friends. And then the next morning I was really thinking about like, what do I want to create in this new year? And at the time I still had a full-time job. And I didn't even know that I wanted to have a business. Like, my life looked so different than it does currently. I had moved to New York. I had left LA. I had gone through my dark night of the soul, but I was very much in that like void space where you kind of left behind a lot of the quote unquote toxic behaviors, dynamics, et cetera, that had you very much stuck in like a frequency and a reality that you don't want to be in. But I hadn't like really quote unquote graduated to the next place. I had started my personal development journey. You know, my psychic gifts had awakened. I was very much on like my spiritual journey. I was learning more about myself. I was healing a lot. I was like doing all those things that you normally do, but I didn't really know where I was going. And I was in that space that I'm sure you're familiar with, where it's like, you just feel in the void. You just feel like you're in this like middle zone. And maybe nothing is like wrong, but like also perhaps things don't feel like superbly right either. And I remember sitting down on my bed and making the decision that that year was the year that I was going to become intentional. And the reason that that was so important to me is because I had come off of 5 years in Los Angeles where I burned through hundreds of thousands of dollars. I had a psychic addiction. I was like hooked into a really toxic karmic relationship. Like, I'd had to have open surgery, all of these different things that were just, you know, basically all my trauma coming forward all at once. And I looked back and I was like, wow, that was 5 years of my life. That was 5 years of my life. And you can imagine what you could create in 5 years, because 5 years after that, right, I had a multi-million-dollar company. I was in my purpose. I was doing the things, like life was moving forward. But when I looked back at those 5 years, although they were really important for my growth and like so much of my hero's journey, right, of where I started, like the rock bottom was during those 5 years. But I never wanted to have another 5 years go by where it felt like I was just sort of like in cruise control. Like just going about my days, doing the same things over and over, thinking the same things over and over without any really going anywhere. And in my version of my life in LA during my Saturn return, not only were we not really going anywhere, it was also like very toxic and like damaging to me, right? Even though those things all needed to happen in order for me to wake up and choose a new direction in my life. And so I decided on that New Year's Day that that was the year that I was going to be intentional, because I did not want to waste any more time and waste any more of my life. And it didn't matter. It didn't mean like, oh, and now you can only drink green juice and go to the gym and blah, blah, blah. Like, I wasn't trying to like go to some extreme with like, I'm only going to, you know, super dialed in 100% of the time, blah, blah, blah. Like, most people don't end up maintaining that anyway. That isn't really what I wanted, but I just wanted to be more awake in my life and awake in my present reality. And I actually think that this is really important, even where we are now as a collective, because there's so many energies, so many forces, so many ways in which the world moves with like an enormous amount of information, like just shoved down your throat and into your psyche at all times, where it's kind of like you're being put to sleep in this very strange way, right? So anyway, I decided that I was going to be intentional. So it didn't matter if I was going to drinks with my friends or going to a workout or like who, you know, what I was doing, but I made the choice that I was going to consciously choose those things instead of being an autopilot. So if I was going to go drink 4 glasses of rosé, I was consciously going to go do that after a night at work, whatever. I was consciously going to go do that. Not just like, oh, found myself out and I had no plans to be out. And then like, I don't know, now I'm hungover and blah, 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 whatever it was, right? And hangovers were not like my biggest problem or something. I'm just using that as an example. Whereas like, I wanted to stop being asleep at the wheel. And so when I stopped being asleep at the wheel, everything changed. And it's so interesting because people think, and they're always looking for these like big, dramatic, like crescendo moments, these big moments of change where like, okay, hopefully if I like jump off this cliff, this is going to reset the trajectory of my entire life. And like, I get that. I'm someone who's made a lot of big leaps in my life, no matter whether it was like moving cities, leaving relationships, moving enormous amounts of money. Like I make big moves, but you have to remember that and those big moves, they create a lot of situational magnetism. I'm sure you've experienced it. Like, I can't tell you how many times, for example, I've seen a client, for example, exit a relationship that she shouldn't be in or speak up inside a relationship where she hasn't been speaking up, right? And her money turns on, right? Like we leave a city that is no longer right for us and all of a sudden we get to a new place and you're like, what in God's name? Like I'm awake now, right? It is true that when you make big shifts in your life, you are going to experience situational magnetism. However, the majority of your life is not going to be built off of wild, crazy moves. And this is coming from someone who's made a lot of wild, crazy moves. But that's not your majority experience. And you don't want to become like a thrill seeker, adrenaline seeker in that quote unquote unhealthy way where you're always looking for some big move that you can make to kind of like try to create a lot more magnetism or a lot more movement in your life, because that will ultimately put you in a searching energy. And then you will wind up getting what used to make you magnetic will now get you stuck, right? Because the times when you were making those big moves previously, they're coming from like or very organic felt place. Like you weren't searching, right? So sometimes you're gonna be making these big fucking moves and that is really valuable. That's important. I've made so many. They've changed my life. I'm so happy about all of them. But the majority of your life is spent in micro moments. The majority of the results that you create, no matter whether it's in your life, in your business, and you're with your money, et cetera, they are all created through micro moments, right? So, but where do we tend to be asleep? Micro moments, right? Like what is that phrase? Something about like how we underestimate how much time, what we can get done in a day and like overestimate what we can create in a year, something like that, right? And so we will kind of like enter cruise control on a day-to-day basis and only think about these big things we're going to do. I'm going to start my business. I'm going to have $1 million year. I'm going to have a 500 million K year. I'm going to move. I'm going to do this, blah, blah, blah. We think about big things, but most of your life is lived in everyday moments. And so making that decision to simply be intentional with my time, intentional who I was spending time with, intentional with what I was doing, it changed everything for me. And by the end of that year, because I took it seriously. And also it didn't feel so strict where it was like something I had to create or something like so tangible. It was more like a frequency that I could keep coming back to and keep remembering that I was choosing to be intentional. By the end of that year, I had a business. By the end of that year, I had started a business. I created more income through my business than I was in my corporate job. And I quit my corporate job. I remember that Christmas, I'd gone home to see my family and my dad was taking me to the airport and he was like, oh, when do you go back to work? And I was like, I'm not, I quit. Because your girl kept her business pretty private because I already knew at that time, like, people who care about you will oftentimes project a lot of fear onto you in the big moves that you're making to try to keep you safe. I didn't have space for that. I didn't have time for that. So I just like did my thing in the background. And my family found out about my company pretty much, my dad's like not on social media, pretty much when I was already fully in and had quit my job. And that to me is just so incredible. All it took was, and I didn't know, this wasn't like I was building up the courage to start a business. I literally didn't even know I wanted one. But when I became more intentional with my time and decided to be intentional and was actually, no matter who I was spending time with, what I was doing it on purpose instead of just like being passenger princess to life, like not paying any fucking attention. We like passenger princess vibes, but not necessarily in that capacity. We're just like on autopilot and not paying attention to anything. It changed everything. And what I want to share now is that one, Like maybe for you, you're someone who is realizing you need to be more intentional. When you think about your days and your weeks and like what's actually occurred, what's taking place, is it actually getting you where you want to go? Or are you in autopilot? Because it didn't take me being like, okay, I'm going to do 75 days hard. I'm not going to eat sugar for 6 months. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Like there was nothing about that was like, I was calling on some like enormous amount of discipline in order to move me forward. I'm not someone who even really responds to that as like an energy that will really like propel me for a long period of time. So I kind of already know that choosing something like that doesn't do anything for me, right? For me, it is a lot more about, and you may be the same, like how am I spending each moment? What decisions am I making for myself? Am I making decisions for myself from a place of self-respect or not? The end, right? Am I creating a life and choices that give me the frequency that I desire to experience or not? The end. And so do you actually need to be more intentional? Like seriously. And when you choose to be, it also changes the choices that you make, which obviously sets off a whole new set of events in motion, no matter whether they're big things or smaller things. And I really feel like 2025 was like such an interesting year because I really believe that collectively, and so obviously personally, we are being awakened to levels of truth and authenticity and like just almost raw vulnerability within ourselves that we didn't need to be quite so awake to previously. But it makes sense, right? So if you think about how the world is evolving, and if you think about just even kind of like the very linear masculine construct that we've come from and where we're going, no matter whether you want to call that new paradigm or just evolution or whatever it is, where people are starting to realize like everything isn't so linear, right? It's not just like science only and like energetics are real, frequency is real, people's psychic gifts are real, intuition is real. This isn't the first time, right, that this has been known. Obviously, witches were burnt at the stake. Like there's been eras where intuition and divine knowing were like highly valued, right? And then obviously it scared the people. It got shut down and the world became very only science-based, only logic-based, right? And now we see again, right, the rising of like feminine energy that started so much, right, in 2020. And people, and I really just continue to know that like our intuition, our ability to know, our ability to see, our ability to trust that and actually move towards that and not be so easily swayed off of that, no matter whether it's by the news, by an enormous overload of information on social media, by you being overly attached to just like, if I do 1 + 2 + 3, it's going to lead me here, right? And not always believing that that's going to be the case because everybody's journey is so unique and how we arrive. And if you want to get on the best path for arrival, it's always going to start frequency first. And then, right, the actions and where you're led to go from there will match the frequency that you're leading with. So everything works, right? Like we are being led into a more true, authentic, intuitively driven place. And so 2025, right, we all experience so much shedding, no matter whether it, for me, right, changing cities, it may have shown up in your business, shedding offers, switching your messaging, or, whatever, ending relationships, like all of these different things. And just waking up to ways where you're like, okay, I've been doing life this way. I've been doing business this way. Maybe you've been pedestaling people this way, idolizing people this way, still allowing yourself to like partake in what is a version of like an online class system, which is kind of weird if you think about it that way, but it's true where it's like, oh, you put people up on a pedestal, right? And don't get in spaces for the right reasons and that kind of thing, which automatically by putting people on a pedestal, it keeps you from getting where you desire to go. Like we should always be moving from a power meets power energy, from an energy of not like you're better than me, but you're tapped into codes I desire to activate. You know, things that like I don't know. And I'd really like to, I know that you're going to see me in ways that are really going to help me see myself. And I'd like to be activated with that, right? Like a much more neutral investing energy. So you may have seen all these ways where you're like, God, like, yeah, I'm moving along, but like, is this fully right? Is this fully me? And I know so much, I've just been online long enough to see how things trend on the internet. And then women will tend to be like, oh my God, like I have to do that too in order to be successful. So for example, it's like, oh my God, you have to have a movement. You have to be on stages. You got to do in-person events. You got to do this. You got to do that before, it's all the problem's always your messaging. Before it was those things, it was like, you got to sell high ticket. You got like every few years, there's a new thing, right? Like every few years, there's a new thing. And the thing is, for the people who are really thriving with those things, they're really right for them. So it's not just a trend doesn't become a trend because it's not working for anybody. It becomes a trend because there's people who do very well with it, right? And so because it works so well for them, they're so tapped into their magnetism, tapped into their truth, tapped into what's good for them. And of course, they tell the people about it because it's so good for them. And the people are like, well, you're doing so well. This must be the way. Right. And it feels like a shiny new thing for a little while. So it gets a lot of attention, but then the tides change and like it becomes something else. And I always say like, you don't want to be someone and some of those things may be right for you. Some may not be, whatever it is, but you don't want to spend your business chasing trends or like you never become anything yourself. Right. Because the person who is, has that a certain business model or just doing whatever they're doing that is in vogue right now, they're not chasing a trend for it to be working for them. It's actually like true for them. So you don't want to be a follower. You want to be a leader, right, of yourself. And it doesn't mean that like you need to come up with something nobody's doing in order to be a leader. It just means that you have to operate from a place of like your deepest truth. And we get so swayed. I just continue to think it's so interesting how we get so swayed by like, and you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Like there's so much that people don't see, right? That's behind social media. But regardless of that, it's like to be someone who really creates powerfully, you actually have to be tapped into your truth at such a deep level and be willing to traverse pieces of yourself that you haven't traversed before or not to the depth that is desiring to be traversed. And so I genuinely feel that 2025 exposed for a lot of us these places where it's like the universe is pushing you and it's like, hey, I think we need to go deeper over here. Hey, I think you need to look at that. Hey, this used to be in alignment. Now it's not. Hey, like you say you want this, but like if you keep going about it this way, you're going to collapse. So I'm really trying to get you on a path that's more sustainable, that feels more like you so you can be happy. And so instead of chasing doing things or accomplishing things, why don't you tune into how you want to feel? Why don't you tune into how you want to feel? I heard something the other day and I was sharing it in my Secret Money membership that actually broke my brain. And it makes a lot of sense to me. In this, I don't know that I would have understood this when I was really early in business, but now I get it. And this guy was basically saying he's very successful in the Gene Keys world. And he was like, don't build a business for success. Build a business that meets your needs. And I was like, sounds simple, but people don't do it. They're just like, I will do whatever it takes to make money. Put me on live 365 days, like whatever we got to do. And that might work when you're early and you're excited or whatever, but it tends not to work forever or not for most people. Some people just roll like that and that's what they like and they want to be live all the time. They want to teach everything live. They want to do everything live. They want 665 masterclasses. And that is perfect if that is you. But the majority of women who've come my way, it's not sustainable, right? But you can create so much money when you do things that way, but there's so many ways to create so much money. And so I don't think it's something that I necessarily thought about early, which was like, okay, like I wasn't that focused on. I knew that like I wanted the money to be sustainable. I knew that what I had experienced in the corporate world, I did not want to experience again. But just by the fact that I didn't have to commute and go to an office already took out the majority of that problem. And I never built my business on a lot of like exclusively private coaching. It was like the very first couple months that I was mostly private and that didn't last long. So I didn't put myself in that situation of like, oh my God, I'm about to collapse under all these private clients. But a lot of people do. And a lot of people have come to me in that situation, right? So, but I knew, right, that was going to drain me really quickly. That led me to my first high ticket offer. And I pretty much scaled, earlier, high ticket group immersions, right, was part of like my fast track. And then of course, over time, mid-ticket offers came in, low-ticket offers came in, memberships came in, still having some masterminds, but not as many as I had previously, et cetera, et cetera. And now I would say I'm very focused and clear on building a business that meets my needs in terms of like how much space I like to have and how I want to, and not just that, it's not just about calendar space, but it's like who's in my world. Like the experience you have in business, so much of it is going to be dictated not just by how much money you're making, but by how the people in your business feel to support, right? By how your team functions, by everything, the systems around you that make your life and your job so easy, by how supported you feel inside those systems and inside the people who hold those systems and help you create them, right? Like that gets to look a number of different ways. You know, some people scale through ads, some people scale through their team. Like none of that actually matters. You can create extraordinary results no matter how you want to do things. But it's just like, do you actually feel supported? Do you actually feel supported? And are you actually building a business that suits your needs? So if you're like, hey, well, I want to spend more time with my kids. I want to spend more time traveling. I want to spend more time doing these things, but you're on 4 calls a day, 5 days a week. Like, how is that working? You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, I want to have these deep, juicy relationships, but then you're still not really allowing yourself to be seen by your audience, or, you know, you're only focusing on your frameworks and your thought leadership content, et cetera, which really fucking important. Don't get me wrong. But it's like, but then the people can't see you. They can't feel you. They don't really know what you really think. They don't really know where you came from. They don't really know what edges you walked, how you feel inside. Like, who are you as a human? So if we don't share those things, right, people, the type of woman, people who we want coming into our high ticket spaces, for those of you who actually like mentor people directly, then they don't know, right? So they can't really feel you. And I was actually chatting with one of the clients in one of my masterminds today about this, where I was like, people who invest high ticket, they're not just investing to learn a process, a framework. Like they can learn that in your mid-ticket programs. They are investing to be next to someone and to walk next to someone who they can feel and they trust, right? They trust them to be honest. They trust that you can see something, right? That other people can't see, but they can only feel that if they can feel you and you've given them access to you in a more intimate way, meaning by what you talk about and how you present and like the stories that you're willing to tell. And they know that they're going to be held, they're going to rise, like they can feel what type of mentorship you are going to offer besides just what you say you're going to offer. And people cannot feel that if we do not share in a more intimate, available, what are you walking? What have you walked? Where did you come from? What's on your heart? Type, regardless of what the rest of the fucking internet is doing, but just getting back into this energy of being paid to be you, which will always be, it will outlast every single trend. It will outlast every single phase of the internet. This is why the most timeless brands who don't just have a big shiny moment in this space are people who are being paid to be themselves. And with the increase of ChatGPT, the insane volume of content being pumped out, people want, if you just don't want people just buying $33, master classes to learn how to do a thing, then they've got to be able to feel a human, right? So you got to be able to bring forward the things that ChatGPT can't be a match for. And then, the people who are just so obsessed with like only selling the process, only selling the framework. And again, those things are important. Remember that like the success is multidimensional. It's not one thing, but people tend to get like overly obsessed with one angle, depending on what angle is trending in terms of what people are telling you need to focus on in your business right now. Right. So we've gone through the messaging era. We've gone through the framework era, like all these eras. And the thing is, there's value and there's truth to all those things, right? You hear like, now you got to build your business based off your astrology, then it's your nervous system, then it's this, then it's that, right? There's always trending topics and all of those topics have a lot of relevancy. However, you cannot get lost in the sauce. And people who know how to market who they are and call people in from that space always fucking win and always stay timeless. Always. And it's like, wow, isn't that interesting how that part never changes? And so if you feel like there's places in your business where you've been overly focused, overly leveraged or under leveraged, again, we never need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think people sometimes hear things like this and they get like super reactive. You don't need to react to anything you've done before. Like, let it all be perfect. And there's probably a lot of pieces to over focusing on certain areas that have landed you to an area of clarity in that area because you were so focused on it. And now it's like, okay, cool. Let me like expand. I don't need to like live here at all times, right? We become experts by focusing in and gaining mastery, but then we want to continue our evolution. And so I really feel that 2025 like started pushing on us to continue that evolution, and also gave you a lot of opportunity to be super distracted, right? By what everybody else is doing, getting yourself in a tizzy about what's working right now, like blah, 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 blah. And so to create from here, I really feel like we really need to come back to our truths. Y'all need to like put your phone down. Stop obsessing over how so-and-so is pivoting her business. Guys, I've seen money created in so many different ways in my company, and so many different ways in my clients' companies. Like I used to do a lot more masterminds. Now I don't. But then I started doing more evergreen. I used to be fully organic. Then I was like, oh, I want an ecosystem that sells for me. First, I created that organically. Then I started doing ads. I love ads, right? Like I've just created the money so many different ways. There's never one way. I used to, I started my business just doing like free master classes and selling high ticket after my like private era, and like totally worked, made lots of money. Used to do sales calls, made lots of money. Didn't want to do sales calls anymore, made lots of money, right? Like everything works, but it's what's true for you right now, and where do you feel convicted? And are you really sharing on the internet like a human? Yes, we need to share through the context of like, hey, what is your client going to highly value, because you're still a business and you're selling offers, right? So it's not just like Dear Diary, of course, but still, I've had many people come my way with what they're sharing is just like a piece of them. And this is the problem with overly paying attention to what's trending on the internet, is a lot of times you end up really watered down, but you're a personal brand. So you're actually getting paid for your depth, paid for your wisdom, paid for who you are. But now you've been watered down because you're worried you're not clear. And we do need to be clear in our marketing. However, the point of being clear isn't so that you only market this piece of you that you somehow figured out or deduced was like, okay, and everything else was too complicated. Being clear is just being able to allow yourself to be multidimensional, but also be clear, right? Like those two things can live together. And can you just be honest with yourself? Because you're going to have a much easier time in business and life this year if you just operate from a place of radical self-honesty. And if every day you're like, if I'm fully honest with myself, is this how I would spend my days? Is this how I would run my business? Is this how I want to bring people into my world? Is what I'm saying, am I contorting because 7-second reels are trending? Or am I like creating content in the way that I desire to create it, while also running through the lens of I have a business, so let me also present my brand in a marketable way. I don't mean like your photo shoots and blah, 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 although those are a vibe, right? I just mean literally your articulation. Like, are you standing for what you really believe in? Or are you standing for something that was true for you 3 years ago? Are you selling things that you actually want to sell? Do you feel alive? Do you feel true? Do you feel awake in how you're doing things? I really feel that. And I have people come my way where it's like, yeah, they're making money and it's there, but they know something is just like a little off. And it doesn't mean that sometimes we do burn down offers, like 100%. Sometimes we do shift the message. We do shift the focus. We do shift the ideal client. We make shifts, but it doesn't feel like, oh my God, you have to start at zero, because we do it from a place of such deep alignment that then they create quantum results, right? And this is how I've seen a client. I have a private client who literally came to me in a very similar situation. We shut down an offer in her business, 2 high ticket offers. One was bringing her 6 figures a year, and created a new one that just just the level of match to who she is and her power and her values and what she's good at and loves. Like, oh my gosh, she made 6 figures in 13 days, like income replaced in 1 minute. And now it's a space that going into 2026, she wants to make one of the big centers of her brand, just as an example. And so we fear change because we think that we have to give up so much, and that we're going to be like dragged through this, like heavy kind of like sacrifice energy. And it's just going to be like we're starting over and we've already come so far. But in my experience, it's not like that a lot of the time. It's really not, because remember that how fast time moves. So as overwhelmed as you get, feeling like there's not enough time, blah, 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 right? Time can also work in your favor just as quickly. So we forget how fast time moves. So when we start shifting into alignment, the universe is like, all right, I guess this bitch is ready to go, and meets you. Right. That's why when you've made those big aligned decisions in your life, right? Like you had so much situational magnetism because you were just like moving, and you were moving clear, and you were letting nothing slow you down. But it tends to be, well, we have other areas or other times where we start like overthinking a lot, instead of like, let me just be supported to get myself on the fastest track is always the clearest one. The fastest track is always the one that's most divinely led. The fastest track isn't one that is ruled by logic and fear, but is led by intuition, and then logical things do insert themselves, right? The places to get the support inserts itself. Like the strategic execution is like, oh my God, you see that? Someone teaches you that, whatever, your mentor mentions it, you're like, oh my God, it's time. Or someone mentioned it to you before, you weren't ready then, you're ready now. Like there's always this dance, right, between the strategic and the energetic, between the 3D and the 5D. It is the process of turning frequency into form. It's never just like one thing outweighing all the others. But it's just that everything starts with our alignment, our intuition, however you tap into it, you're like, that pull, like everything starts with that. And so a lot of people, we've learned not to trust that. We weren't raised to trust that, but I believe strongly we were being initiated into that and back into being people who lead in that way, because coming from this like solely, linear, masculine, science only, logic only, like it's not fucking working for people. People are tired, they are stressed out, and they are feeling heavy, and they are feeling like they are creating, and like some things, yes, feel really good, but there's these pieces where it's like, this does not feel like me, or this money is not being made in the way you really desire to make it. Like things feel off, and they only feel off if we've been coming from a place that is out of alignment. And so then it influences the words that we speak, the words that we write, the actions that we take, et cetera, because we didn't start with what was true. 2026 wants you to lead with what is true. 2025 showed you what was not true. I think you're awake to that. And if you're not awake to it, well, you'll get the opportunity again this year. But I really feel for most of you, you were awake to it. And now it's time to lead with what is true. To lead with what is true. And it might feel a little scary, but what I want you to remember, what I've seen in my own life, what I've seen in my clients' lives, is it does not mean that like your life just gets so slowed down and it's just so dramatic. And let's say you're changing your business, it takes so much more, time and energy and stress to change your business. Like it doesn't, it gets lighter. The more that you operate from truth, the lighter your life will feel, the lighter your business will feel, the lighter money will feel. The more you stop chasing other people's results, and the more that you just go into the spaces where you're intuitively led, where you feel something, you feel activated, you're like, I don't even necessarily know what it is, but I know you got something for me. And P.S., I really believe that having more, because there was this era where people were like, I'm burned on masterminds, blah, 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 right? And then they tried to build their businesses off master classes and programs, which are highly fucking valuable. I sell them. But it's like, okay, cool. You do those things. Yes, for the activation. Yes, for the information, but they're not mentorship. It's like a completely different space. And I feel like people are going to really start desiring, I've always believed in it. I've always invested it. I've always led it. Right. But I just noticed again, trending on the internet, it's like, hey, like desiring real human support again, and actually wanting to be held, wanting to be seen, and wanting to like walk real journeys together, because it's so much of how we create such insane results. Like I'd be lying through my fucking front teeth if I told you that I went from 100K in debt and 100K months just from master classes and programs. Fuck no, I didn't. I was invested at very high levels in masterminds and or private mentorship the whole way through. That is how I got there. In addition, of course, to me and my brilliance, et cetera, but it was like, I was walking with women. I was being held. I was being seen. I was being supported. And yes, of course, like, do I believe I would make the money anyway? I would create the result anyway? Like, of course. But at the same time, like, I can't imagine a world where I'm just like, oh, I'm not doing that anymore because of like one or two experiences that I learned something from. Like, I'm so fucking grateful for all the mentors that I've had on my journey, and the places that weren't aligned. It's like, I barely even remember anymore. I'm just like, wow, look who I became. Look at what I've created. And just for me too, it's like, the who I became part is just insane when I think about who I was previously. And yes, of course, I've got my story of like 6 years in debt to 6-figure months and making multiple seven figures in this company, and now scaling it in new ways, which is really exciting. Like, that's incredible. I never even considered, I did not grow up being like, I want to be an entrepreneur. I never knew any of this was coming. This came through my own healing and my awakening. And I was like, holy fuck, I'm supposed to be helping people, right? It's like, it just dropped in. So I can't imagine not having that level of support. And I think that for those of you who offer high ticket spaces, like, you are going to see, especially if you're willing to like really show up powerfully and not just live in the world of fucking 7-second reels, right? And cheap trending content, that you are going to see people really desiring to be supported again. I really, really feel that. And so they have to feel you. So I started this conversation, of course, with like how to create beyond your wildest dreams in 2026. And what I want to leave you with is, one, just getting a lot more fucking intentional and actually paying attention to what is going on and decide inside your days, your minutes, your weeks. And it doesn't mean you need to be on all the time. Like, people confuse being intentional with being pressured. I think being pressured slows you down. You need to learn to rest when you need rest. You need to learn to take breaks when you need a break. You'll be so much more potent when you come back. Like, this is it really, really, you know how athletes, like, there's no one coaching an athlete is going to be, yep, just push it to the limit 7 days a week, or like, you will not have a career. So why in the world of entrepreneurship are people like scared to rest? It's insane. One, build a business model that makes money while you rest. Two, understand that for your brain to be clear and your potency to be online, all these things, like, you need rest. You really do. And so that means, right, so again, being intentional isn't about being pressured. And then these areas where you still feel a little like, it's not all the way there, right? Or like, this isn't really my full truth. This isn't really what I want to be doing. I'm trying to just make money, but I'm not actually building a business that supports my needs for like what I desire in my life. Because like, you can just fucking sell your soul and work 24/7 if all you care about is making money. But like, are you actually setting yourself up to make money in the ways you want to make money, right? In the ways that allow you to not just make money, but to have a full, rich life? Because I can bet you your bottom dollar that you're not going to look back on your life and be like, I'm so happy I worked so much. You're going to want to have contributed. You're going to want to have made a difference. You're going to want to have like, oh my God, been paid divinely for your gifts. But you're going to want to have had created a full life. And people take that to mean leave money on the table. You don't need to leave any money on the table. You just need to build a business that actually works for what you want, instead of chasing money, doing things that people do who have different priorities than you do. Some people like, and you don't know, so a lot of people are like living to work because they are trying to prove something to themselves. They're trying to prove something to other people. Do you want to build your business off of proving energy? I don't, right? So sometimes when you see how certain people operate, you don't know what's driving them. And what's driving them may not be something that you desire to align to at all. I've been behind the scenes a lot, right? So you need to make sure that what's driving you is actually what your soul wants, and that you create from a place of what your soul wants, not chase how other people create their success. Or it will continue to be your fucking Achilles heel that you keep getting distracted. And I know this because women come into my world where this has happened, and we've got to, and it's not a problem. I've done it too. I just like maybe woke up to it sooner, woke up to it faster, right? I tend to kind of be allergic when I start to get caged in, but I've never seen not leading from my 100% truth or what works for me, regardless of what's working for other people. I've never seen abandoning that create something that I want that also feels good so it can last. I've taken pieces and be like, oh, I like this part, but fuck no, I'm not doing all those things, right? And I alchemize it into what works for me. But I just know we can't be living in other people's realities. We have to be living from a place of our, and your soul knows. That is the thing, is like, what your soul wants isn't mysterious. It's just that we let our mind get in the way. We let our ego get in the way. We let fear get in the way. Your mind was never intended to lead you. Your mind is there to, yes, process information, help you get things done, et cetera, et cetera. But it's like your soul is always what's been intended to leave you. And if you're like, hey, but sometimes I can't feel the difference between my soul, my mind, whatever it is, ask yourself to be shown. I literally the other night asked the universe, I was like, just show me what I need to see. Now that I've left New York, my dreams are like fucking, I dream like every night again. I'd like stopped dreaming, which is so crazy. God, it's wild. So now I'm dreaming every night. And like, I literally asked that before I went to bed and I had this dream. I was like, okay, you showed me what I need to see. Like, remember that all you need to have is willingness. It's like, show me where it is going to like support me and doing this in this way that feels really good, and you will be shown. Right? It's like, it's not, it doesn't mean you're trying to figure it out by yourself. You're just going to all the spaces, the places, the people that are going to support you on your journey. Like when they say it takes a fucking village, that doesn't mean just raising kids. That's huge. But it's literally like making our millions. It's growing our companies. It's growing ourselves. Like our overly individualistic culture is like damaging. And we know this, right? So don't take that into your business either. It's not fucking worth it. So are you leading from truth? Are you leading from soul? Are you willing to put fear aside and be honest with yourself about what you want and how you want to get there and what feels most true for you? Because I really believe it's always rewarded, but I just feel that like on the back end of 2025, which was so pivotal in showing us what needed to shift so that we'd be prepared for a faster frequency in 2026. Because I don't think we're slowing down, but in a way, again, that can be really good because you can create quickly. Like 2025 prepared us, but now we actually have to lead from truth. It's not so much like I am discovering the truth. There's pieces you discovered, but now we need to like, and you're going to discover more. Obviously, you're human, you're going to evolve, but now we really need to lead with it. So I felt called to share that with you. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are not sure where you desire to go, just shoot me a message. I'm happy to help you get clear. And then if you are an avid listener of the show, I want to remind you as well, you can always rate and review the podcast, email your screenshot to assistant@jocelynkellyreid.com or send me a DM with it and receive $200 off any offer in the business. And this is excluding secret money. So I love you so much. Thank you for being here. Happy 2026. And I'd also just really love to hear, thank you so much. You guys have been messaging me after I left my episode about leaving New York. I'd really love to hear how this landed for you as well. Bye. Hello, Angel. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I want to remind you that Feminine Magic and Money is now open as a private journey, and I'm so excited for it. I love depth. I love intimacy. I love the inside job as much as I love all the strategic things. And it's just such a special space. And having this container where I don't want to just say like, you're held and supported, because you guys know what I mean, how that can be like, whatever, not whatever, like you value it, but like we're really getting in like to the depths of your soul, the depths of your psyche, the depths of your spirit, and being like, what is true? And like really helping you to elevate onto new timelines, play in new dimensions, allow more ease, and teach you how to create without needing to do so much more. That is what Feminine Magic and Money is for. And this space is for you if deep embodiment of feminine wealth, pleasure, magic, and magnetism sounds like a yum. All my clients who have ever had the experience always say every woman needs to have this in her life. And they call it witch school. They call it witch school because y'all, you just don't play the game like everybody else after FMM. I will tell you that. So I'm offering it as a private journey. As I mentioned previously, you will have access to our guest expert sessions, which are going to be available for instant access inside the portal, as well as, oh my goodness, so many guided journeys, activations, healings, everything is inside, trainings, everything is inside for you. So you can check out what all of that is on the enrollment page. Please reach out to me if you're interested in and having this experience in private. So it's going to be very much focused on the body, very focused on your energetics, on your psyche, everything that is deeply the inside job. So this is for you, no matter if you have any kind of company, you are a stay-at-home mom, you work in corporate, like the work piece does not matter. This is like definitely the human side. The results blow them, everything just is, I was gonna say blow themselves out the water, but you know what I mean? Blow it out the water every single time. At the bottom of the enrollment page, you can listen to tons of episodes from women who have been inside the space. It's just so life-changing. It is so deeply life-changing. You will never be the same. You'll truly never be the same. So if you'd like to experience it as a private journey, please reach out to me or email assistant@jocelynkellyreid.com and we will get back to you. A reminder as well to coming out with us in the Secret Money membership, which is going to be the low ticket, high lux way in my world to turn the money faucet where you want it all the way on. You'll receive all my master classes, all my master courses, real time behind the scenes riffs from me where I literally dive into everything like personal, business, energetic, strategic things, industry things, what I see working for clients, what I'm navigating in my business, lessons I'm learning. It's like Dear Diary, but like in a way that's actually conducive to your growth. And with Secret Money, there's over 100 of those to dive into as well, in addition to like the portal where you have the trainings. I've also just dropped a message into the chat where you have the opportunity to share like what you'd like me to dive into for this year, which is exciting. So when you join now, you'll still have access to drop those questions in. And then, you have your 7-day free trial. So you can check it out, see if you love it, cancel anytime within the 7 days. I might make it 3. I don't know. Right now it's 7. So just know that. And I love you so much. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you are feeling the pull to feminine magic and money, please reach out to me. Change your life. It will absolutely change your life. Bye.